Oh.
Right, Kevin Conger.
Kevin Conger.
I also have a lot of slides. I'm going to go really fast. Here we go. I'm going to talk mostly about street life, but before I do, I want to back up and contextualize some of these issues that we've been talking about today and the broader issues of urban planning, the issues of economic planning, social justice, environmental issues, all the big picture things that we're trying to solve, while we're also thinking about the way people occupy the street. These are some of our kind of inspirational photos around the alleys in our office, where people are using what available public space there is in kind of creative and adaptive ways, and making things of their own use, expressing themselves in a way that, that they feel is natural. And these things are really core, fundamental to the role of urban public space, that they are the essential platform for democracy. And we, in our practice, we think of all these issues, all the economic issues, the social issues, the environmental issues, and the public life issues as a sort of series of vectors that overlap. And in any one project might bring these together, depending on what the projects are. They bring the coincidence of these unrelated issues that are coming from different areas together in a sort of form of consilience. And that informs our projects. And I know that that you guys think about intervention in a certain way. I think that oftentimes it's thought about as a mode of disruption. We also think of intervention as a way of accrual, that the landscape has latent characteristics that are oftentimes underlaying, and there's a lot of potential in that those be expressed through the intervention of the new design. And this is a quick sketch. That's my wife on the jackhammer. This is our backyard. Yeah. And it's just a sort of it's unrelated to public space, but it's a sort of quick sketch about how intervention becomes very poignant. And I'm going to show a few more projects that are about that. We do a lot of pro bono work, a lot of times with these guys called public architecture. And pro bono work is really important. It's important when you first start your practice because sometimes it's the only work you get. And it's important to continue to do that because it establishes your role in the community. This was a project in a street on South of Market where they had identified a serious lack of public open space. This sort of preceded parking day. This is about 8 years ago, and they said, well, what if we take the street, the parking spaces, and we program them for any number of uses? And we found a partner in a cafe that was willing to go in and sponsor converting a parking space to an expanded public space. There was a piece of infrastructure that treated stormwater and a community bench where people could gather, did something for the environment. We took the idea was to take the parking meter and use it to allow people to put in contributions that would fund the next one down the street. Nice. And that project didn't get built. We can come back to that later. It has a lot to do with the tactical versus the not, and maybe that can come up in conversation. This was another small intervention project. Most of the projects I'm going to show you tonight are pro bono. You guys can see if you can figure out the ones that aren't, but this is another one that's a pro bono project. It's at the Castro District. It's the BART stop at the Castro District. This is before. There's no place to hang out, and the community asked us to take a look at doing that. We made some art proposals and went through the Arts Commission to get a simple series of benches approved, and then just like that, you have social life. That is a segue to what we are starting to refer to as tactile urbanism, which is a little riff on the tactical, and it has a lot to do with the human condition and the environment, and also has a lot to do with the material and the way the materials of the intervention relate to one another. And this project this is the Panhandle, which is an extension of Golden Gate Park. We worked with a group of artists, a couple of groups of artists, to put in this band shell that was there for one summer. It's designed out of 100% salvaged materials that were interrupted from the waste stream. It's made out of car hoods, and the back is made out of recycled bottles. This is the opening. there was a lot of different types of performers and stuff like that. Those are computer boards that are kind of the ornament of the inside structure there. And there was a website in which anybody could go and they could reserve it for themselves throughout the summer. And so people could sort of self-program it and use it themselves all through the summer, which was cool because there was all different types of people that would set up and do different things in the summer long. So then, for us, the question is, what happens when we begin to scale up some of these ideas into a little bit more of a urban scale? So this is a project that we have recently completed in the Yerba Buena district, which is the district around the Museum of Modern Art. The Moscone Center is there. There's a bunch of hotels, a lot of retail. There's also a lot of residential. There's some alleyways. There's a lot of seniors that live here. It's a really diverse district that has, in recent history, been industrial, a lot of car shops and stuff like that, and then has begun to transform. The land uses have begun to transform, but the public space has not. So the public space is not that great. We went through a community process, a lot of community meetings, and developed some strategic goals with the community to do things like promote the alleys and enhance street life and create a mode for the public to take more pride in the space and so forth. And what occurred to us at the end was that so much of the critical work is sort of in between these two scales right here. It's like in between the big urban planning and the flower baskets. And that's, in the end, what this project became. There's 36 distinct projects that came out of this, from new plazas at the convention center to converting some of these unused vehicle alleys into public spaces because they weren't actually necessary for vehicle circulation. Another one here. And these aren't really designs, these are visions or ideas that will lead to designs in the future. There's the solar docking stations at the convention center, these community posts and so forth. And the first design that came out of this was these parkmobiles, which was a kind of alternative to the flower baskets that they thought they were going to get. And so there's 6 of these that move around the neighborhood about once a month. They come into different locations and they sit there. People apply for them, that they want to get one in front of their store or whatever. And they're really simple. They're dumpsters. Dumpsters are really cheap, custom dumpster, and so they're cruising around the district. So now I want to talk a little bit about the relationship of urban infrastructure and humanity and social life. This is a little plaza on the left. I mean, an alley on the left, Mint, that didn't need to have vehicles on it for the city grid to be effective, and so it was closed and made into a plaza, basically a very simple urban stage for different things to happen. But underlaying this is a huge infiltration basin that intercepts the entire watershed up to a 5-year storm for that area that surrounds it, because we have a combined sewer overflow system in this part of San Francisco, and it creates a lot of problems in the heavy storms that leads to really terrible water quality issues. And so we're able to, through grading and capturing the stormwater, we're able to infiltrate everything up to a 5-year storm, while on the top of it is a functioning social space that is programmed for events, and these chairs are out there so that anybody can sit and hang out. And there's a farmer's market that comes in once a week, and it's a super lively space. And so the last project I'm going to show is about sort of scaling up even more. This is Treasure Island. This is, for those of you who don't know exactly where we are, this is San Francisco, and this is Oakland over here. This is Treasure Island in the middle. It's a man-made island. This is before it was built. It's before the Bay Bridge was built as well. And they built it originally, they filled it, dredged sand up there and pumped it up there because the San Francisco airport was going to go there. And before they opened the airport, they had this big international exposition there as a way to sort of celebrate San Francisco and its place in the international community at that point. It was all this sort of fantastical stuff. And then, before they could build the airport, we went to war, so the Navy had a military base there, which closed in the late 80s. And through a long process of the base closure and reuse plan, it is now being proposed to be redeveloped. And we've been working on this project for about 10 years. And it's a really aggressive plan. There's 8,000 new homes, some hotels, some retail. There's over 300 acres of open space. It's mostly open space. There's 30% of the homes will be below market rate. So it's all these sort of ambitious things. You can get a sense of the density there. And this is the retail district, and this is the residential district. And my point is that with these sort of all these grand plans, we're capturing all the stormwater on island, super sustainable. There's a 20-acre urban farm on the island that will grow food. Some of the more critical decisions, more important, more vital decisions, I will say, came about from some very simple concepts. And it was basically about how can we get everybody out of the car. If we make a very short ferry trip from a new ferry terminal on Treasure Island to San Francisco, we can make it so it's super convenient and nobody will drive. And then if we make a pedestrian network to where everybody is at the furthest, a 15-minute walk from the ferry terminal, and combine that with fares if you drive off the island, we can make it very compelling for people to walk. And then if we make a pedestrian street network that connects all the neighborhoods through to the ferry terminal, which is here, we can make the pedestrian experience fantastic. And that led, and everybody was totally supportive of that, but that led us to a realization that San Francisco didn't really have a street type that would allow us to do that. And so working with the city, we figured out a way to come up with a new San Francisco street type, which is defined as a non-hazardous vehicle way, in which it's curbless. People can walk down the middle. Cars can still drive on it, but they have to yield to pedestrians. And although this project is years out before it gets built, it has enabled this now approved street type to begin getting built in other places in the city already. So a big project can have sort of very specific policy functions on a more tactical level. And so now, coming back to this one where I started, a project we're beginning right now with a huge planning team, including Gale Architects, it's called Reclaim Market Street. It's the redesign of Market Street from the Castro all the way to the ferry building, which we'll be looking at limiting, or in some instances eliminating vehicle traffic, bringing new bike lanes in, and making it more vibrant for pedestrians, and we will see where it goes. Like everything in San Francisco, we have a very long public process to get through, but that's what we're currently working on. Thanks.
Nice.